The first cough seemed like nothing, just a dry tickle in the back of his throat as Ramesh Patel knelt in his vegetable field at dusk. He paused briefly, wiping his sweaty forehead with the edge of his faded red turban before returning to uprooting weeds from between the rows of vibrant green spinach. When the coughing continued intermittently over the next few days, the 65-year-old Indian farmer assumed it was just the seasonal dust that blew across the fields during the arid summer months. His wife Kamala brewed him tulsi tea with honey each morning, clucking her tongue in maternal concern as he drank the steaming liquid between coughs. By the third week, the coughing fits had become so violent they left Ramesh gasping for air, his broad shoulders heaving as he struggled to catch his breath between spasms. The village doctor prescribed a syrup for seasonal allergies and advised resting indoors when the winds picked up in the afternoon. But resting wasn't an option for a man who had spent every daylight hour of the past 40 years working the land that fed his family. Then came the morning that shattered their ordinary lives forever. Ramesh awoke just before dawn with an unbearable pressure in his chest, as if something was crawling up his windpipe. Stumbling into the courtyard of their modest home, he collapsed to his knees as a coughing fit more violent than any before racked his body. Kamala came running at the sound, her bare feet slapping against the sun-baked earth, just in time to see something impossible, a thick, pinkish-white worm, nearly 5 centimeters long and glistening with mucus, slither from her husband's gaping mouth into his cupped hands. The creature twisted and coiled upon itself in Ramesh's palm, very much alive. At the small rural clinic 20 kilometers away, the young doctor's eyes widened in disbelief when Ramesh produced the still wriggling worm in an old spice tin. The physician, who had trained at an underfunded medical college in Mumbai, had read about such cases in textbooks, but never imagined encountering one in his tiny clinic. After frantically consulting medical references and placing calls to district hospitals, he arranged an emergency transfer to a major medical center in Mumbai. The CT scans revealed a horror beyond comprehension. Dozens of similar worm-shaped shadows coiled through Ramesh's lungs like grotesque living vines. More were visible in his intestines, their pale bodies undulating gently with peristaltic motion. Some had even begun tunneling beneath his skin, leaving raised, serpentine tracks across his torso that itched unbearably. The senior parasitologist, Dr. Kapoor, a man who had devoted his 30-year career to studying such infections, felt his stomach lurch when he saw the images. Ascaris lumbricoides, he murmured, recognizing the common roundworm that infects nearly 1 billion people worldwide. But I've never seen pulmonary involvement this advanced. The infection had likely begun years earlier when Ramesh accidentally ingested microscopic eggs from contaminated vegetables or well water, an ever-present danger in rural farming communities. The eggs hatched in his intestines, releasing larvae that penetrated the intestinal wall to begin their gruesome life cycle. Normally, the larvae migrate to the lungs via the bloodstream, get coughed up, and are swallowed to mature in the intestines. But something had gone terribly wrong in Ramesh's body. For 3 harrowing weeks, the hospital became ground zero for a nightmarish parade of parasitic expulsion. Nurses collected 26 additional worms during Ramesh's treatment. Some emerged during violent coughing fits that left him exhausted and trembling. Others slithered out with his stool into specially prepared collection pans. The most disturbing episode came when a nurse noticed something moving beneath the translucent skin of Ramesh's eyelid, a worm attempting to migrate to his eye. The psychological toll became almost as devastating as the physical effects. Ramesh developed a compulsive need to examine every cough and itch, convinced more creatures lurked inside him. He would wake screaming from dreams of worms bursting from his skin, his hospital gown soaked with sweat. Kamala, who rarely left his bedside, began scrutinizing every morsel of food that entered the ward, her once cheerful face now permanently lined with worry. What made Ramesh's case particularly chilling was how long the parasites had lived inside him undetected. Adult female roundworms can produce 200,000 eggs per day while giving no obvious symptoms. His infection had probably festered for years before reaching this critical stage. Even after successful treatment with anti-parasitic medications, Ramesh insisted on keeping the first expelled worm preserved in a formaldehyde-filled jar. "People don't believe such things can happen," he told Dr. Kapoor, his voice still hoarse from weeks of coughing. "They need to see." Ramesh's ordeal, later published in several medical journals, exposes terrifying truths about the parasites that share our world. These organisms have evolved sophisticated strategies to hijack human bodies, often remaining undetected until they've established overwhelming numbers. In rare cases, the worms don't follow their normal migration patterns, but instead wander to the brain, eyes, or heart with catastrophic consequences. When he finally returned home, Ramesh found he couldn't work the fields without panic gripping him at every itch or stomach rumble. The village children, who had once brought him fresh-picked mangoes, now whispered and pointed when he passed. Kamala boiled all their water and scrubbed vegetables with salt, her movements sharp with lingering fear. The preserved worm remains on a shelf in their home, a silent sentinel warning of the invisible threats that surround us. Some nights, when the monsoons lash their village with rain, Ramesh still wakes with a start, his hand flying to his throat. And in those moments before full wakefulness, he swears he can feel something moving inside him once more.